Well, my first experience with the game was, I think, when I was 9 or 10 years old.
What's up, guys? Today you're tuned in with the #1 sports youth show, Sports Told by Youth. I'm your host, Joshua Evan, joined by my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend.
Yes, sir.
Coach Darius. How you doing, Coach?
I'm good, buddy. How about you?
I'm doing great. Before we start this off, make sure y'all like, follow, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more exclusive content. Today we have a special guest for y'all. Our next guest is a first-round NFL draft pick at the University of Auburn, where he graduated with a degree in public administration. He was drafted in the first round by the Baltimore Ravens and went on to have an amazing career playing for the New Orleans Saints and Kansas City Chiefs. He is a two-time Pro Bowl guard and a Pro Football Writers of America NFL All-Rookie team member. He's a member of the 2004 Auburn Tigers team that went undefeated. He has a nonprofit with his foundation, Son of Saint, proud husband, father, and owner of one of North Georgia's premier training programs, Game Time Performance. Your coach, my coach, and friend, Ben Grubbs. Coach, welcome. Thank you for being here and taking out a few minutes of your busy schedule to give back to our youth viewers. How you doing, Coach Grubbs?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Coach, man, good to see you again. Appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, man, no problem, man. I'm glad I could make it.
Taking a few minutes out for us. Coach, before we get started here, we like to do something here on the show where before we get started, we take a minute just to say what we're thankful for. So in your cup is some of your high quality water. Josh has his, I has mine. So I'll kick it off. Man, Coach, me and you've talked about this for a couple of years now. I think you're one of the first people I kind of talked this concept with.
Right.
And you thought it was a good idea. And since then, we've been connected. You've been pushing me. So for me today, Josh, I'm thankful for just having friends like you pushing me. We talk about getting better, pushing me to get this off the ground. And we're sitting here today. So thank you for coming, Coach. Thank you for pushing me as well. What about you, Josh? What are you thankful for?
I'm thankful for being invited here another time. You know, the first time it was a learning experience, just getting my feet wet a little. You know, I'm getting more comfortable with it, and I'm just really thankful for you inviting me again.
Absolutely. Coach, what about you?
Man, so I'm thankful for football, man. You know, this podcast is called Sports Told by Youth. Football has given me a lot, and it has become a way of life for me. So, you know, I'm thankful for the sport and everything that has brought me, which it has brought me friendships and with Josh and you and all my other friends and family as well. So,
Absolutely. So I'll drink to that, Coach. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Grateful for that. All right, Coach, well, we'll get right into it. We got a good question. The research team has done some research on you. We got some things we want to know about you and make sure that you articulate to our youth viewers out there. Coach, so before we get started, you got a birthday coming up, I think, next week.
Man.
So we just want to wish, on behalf of the Sports Told by Youth family, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
On March 10th. You got anything special planned?
Oh, man, just spending it with family, man. I'm not a real big birthday. I don't celebrate my birthdays, at least. I mean, growing up, my mom didn't really make that a priority, which I'm fine with.
Absolutely.
But I have my son, he celebrates all his birthdays. My wife, you know, I make it a big deal with everybody else in my family. But for me, I'm just happy to be alive, brother.
Sounds like a plan. Well, Coach, happy birthday to you. Well, let's get started here. Coach, let's start. You mentioned your mom, and so let's start with childhood. And I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm going to say it how it looks. Let's talk about electric.
Yeah,
Is
you
it
got
electric or electric Alabama?
No,
Can you talk about, first, how do you pronounce it?
Eclectic.
Eclectic.
Alabama.
You
Yeah.
got that, Josh? How do you say it?
Electric.
Okay, I'll mess it up again, I'm sure. But
Eclectic, Alabama. Yeah.
Can we talk about growing up there?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, it was quite the experience, man. Eclectic, Alabama. Is there a population of 2,000 people, one red light, and you know it's a close-knit family or community rather, and it's a place where everybody knows everybody. You know, nothing's secret. If anything happens, your neighbor knows about
Absolutely.
it. If you get in trouble, they're gonna call your mama and let mama know that something happened, or they had to discipline me while I was over at their house. So it's that type of community. Playing sports was really all I had to do, man.
Right.
I played sports because there was nothing else to do, and it was just something that I gravitated towards at a young age. And growing up there, I mean, it really made me appreciate the small things in life.
Yes.
Man. It doesn't take a lot to make me happy. I'm still the same way, even when I was in the NFL. You know, having money and being exposed to certain things. I always wanted to just stick to the finer things in life, simple things, and that's the way I am. And I can truly say, growing up in a small town helped me become the man that I am and shaped me.
Absolutely. I agree, Coach, when you said it made me think about, I'm from a small town. You've spent some time in Louisiana, but I'm near Nicholls State University down in the Thibodeau Raceland area. And same thing, very small town. I think we had 2 traffic lights, or maybe 3. Correct me anybody out there.
Big time, man.
But to your point, small town, humble living taught me a lot about it, made up who I am as well. So I share that in common with you as well. One more before I'll pass it to Josh. Josh, go ahead.
Coach Grubbs, how did you get started in football?
So I started playing football when my first experience with the game was, I think, when I was 9 or 10 years old. And I played, but as my mom tells it, I didn't like the contact. And so I quit. And I soon transitioned to baseball, man. And baseball was really my first love. And I was really good at it. My nickname was Big Hurt after Frank Thomas. Yep, he was the first baseman. I was too. But then, as I got older, I think middle school, 8th grade, a coach spotted me in the hallway in middle school and asked if I played football. I was like, nope. He was like, you want to try out? I said, sure. And I went and tried out, made the team, and as they say, the rest is history.
History, yeah. That's interesting that you played baseball. Josh, do you know who Frank Thomas is? That me and Coach may be dating ourselves.
Hall of Fame, baby.
Yes, one of the best baseball lefties playing the Chicago White Sox.
As well, yeah.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
Yep.
Wow, perfect.
Well, Coach, if you didn't know, I'm going to let you know right now. You're one of my biggest inspirations, You've been having a big impact on my life recently. What was your biggest inspirations growing up?
Oh, man. So much like yourself, man, coaches. I had great coaches to push me and to always teach me to give it my best, no matter the outcome. Always put your best foot forward. My mom, she was obviously the biggest inspiration. My dad died when I was 5 years old, so my memories of him, I don't really have a lot. All I know is my mom was always there. And I saw the struggles and I saw her overcome, all the obstacles that were placed in her life because she was a single parent. And she raised 2 boys. I have an older brother he's 2 years older than I am. And, I just remember seeing my mom crying and seeing her on her knees praying and, and then she'll get up and go to work, and come home and make sure everything is taken care of and then get up and do it all over again. So that perseverance that she displayed day in and day out really taught me that, obstacles are going to come, adversity is going to come.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, you're going to have to, stick with your faith and keep working. So, definitely my mom, my coaches, teachers, academically, I excelled in the classroom as well. And, it was really a tribute to my teachers because they always pushed me. They knew that football was in my future, but they wanted to make sure that I wasn't one of the guys that didn't handle business in the classroom because they knew that one day the game is gonna be over, right. And I needed to have a backup plan. So education was one of the things that they always taught me to fall back on. So awesome. Those are my inspirations.
Yes, awesome, Coach. I would like to say, Josh, and Coach, you said something and I'm big on this. You mentioned obviously the impact of your mom, and we'll get to that later. But you mentioned something that I think is important. Shout out to all the teachers out there. I always say, if I was president for a day, if you gave me a decision, one of the first actions I would do is give teachers more money. I think, like you mentioned, the influence, the impact. They spend 8 to 10 hours with us. I just think they're grossly underpaid for what they have to do. So you made a good point. Shout out to all the teachers out there. If you follow this show and put it where it needs to be, Coach is going to get you a raise. All right, fair enough. So, Coach, on that note, let's talk about something here. You choose Auburn when you're being recruited out of high school.
Right.
You choose the great Auburn University. But at the time, I understand you had LSU recruiting, Alabama. Yeah. Why Auburn over those great schools and others, I'm sure?
Yeah, so, man, there were a lot of options. I mean, Florida, Michigan came on late. I knew I was a mama's boy, man. So I wanted to stay close to home. I wanted to stay close to home. Auburn was 45, 50 minutes from my hometown. Alabama, maybe 2.5 hours, I believe, maybe 3. LSU, 5.5, and I took my visits to Alabama, Auburn, and LSU. And they all were great. I loved it. LSU, really, if it was closer, I would have went to LSU. But I knew that having family and support staff close by, that was important to me. So I wanted to make sure that I gave my mom and my family opportunities to come see me play. And my mom came to every home game, and she made it to a lot of away games. So, just having or giving that to my family meant a lot to me and them.
Makes perfect sense.
What should young athletes know about the jump from high school to college?
Oh, man. Well, you got more freedom, I'll tell you that. So you have more freedom, and Josh, you'll get to experience this, man, as you continue to excel in the game. But for leaving from high school to college, you have to understand you got to manage your time. You will have itinerary, but it's your choice to follow that itinerary. When and where to be is all going to be written down for you. Workout's going to be at a certain time, but you're going to have a freedom, man, to not go, and it's going to be a choice. And at that point, success is a choice. You're not going to have mama, daddy, uncles, your granddaddies. You're not going to have those people that you're so used to forcing you to be great. It's going to have to be your choice. So managing that time so that you give yourself the opportunities to be great is, I think, one of the biggest adjustments. I would also say just the intensity in the game. You're playing on a much higher level where there's going to be a lot of 4 and 5 stars that you're going to be competing against, and that skill level and that talent pool is just going to be vast, man. It's going to be much higher, much faster, and it's going to take a while to get adjusted to. But when you do, it's going to become your new norm. I remember going back to high school and watching football as I was a college and NFL player, and the game just looked slow because I was so used to a faster speed. So the intensity, the speed, that's another thing that I would say would take some time to get adjusted to. And I guess lastly, just understanding that you're going to have to self-advocate for yourself. You're in college. You're going to be looked at as a man. And so with that, it's going to bring responsibilities, and you're going to have to make sure you get your needs met because not everybody's going to have your best interests at hand. So, going to a new environment where there are resources, but once again, it's your choice. It's your choice to take advantage of those resources. So self-advocating for yourself, making sure you get your needs met would be another thing.
Awesome. And Coach, one of the things before Josh carries on to the viewers out there whenever this is published, I've said it through every episode, and I don't want to, and I'll keep ringing this bell about this show. Having guests like you, amazing. Having kids like Josh to interview is amazing. But one of the big things we're doing and we want to do is, you've talked about this in detail, we're teaching public speaking. We're teaching the skills needed. So I'm going to take a moment to pause here. Relax. You sit back, look at Coach, match and mirror. You can put your cards down, and this will be on camera, so everybody knows. Relax now. We got through for everybody out there knowing that's watching. Typically, the first minute or two of an interview or we're all nervous, right? But now that we've conditioned, relax, and there's a term that's called match and mirror. If you make your guests comfortable, if you sit back and you have a comfortable posture, they typically take that on too, and same as he do it. So I just want to reset, make that a coaching point for everybody because this is a coaching show. And let's get back into it. You're doing good, big dog. Let's roll.
Yes, sir.
Coach, transitioning from being a 3-star linebacker in high school to an offensive lineman of Auburn does not sound like an easy feat, mentally or physically. What advice could you give young athletes like me who's having to transition?
That's a good question, Josh.
Great question.
What advice would I give you and other athletes when it comes to transitioning? I would say get real comfortable with adversity and embrace challenges because I played linebacker, and that was something that I knew and I loved. I knew how to play the position, and I wanted to be the next Ray Lewis. If you ask me what I wanted to be, who I patterned my game after, it was Ray Lewis. And there was a time when I got to Auburn where I needed to change positions, and I wasn't so happy about it. But it was at a point during my playing career at Auburn that I just wanted different results, because playing on the defensive side wasn't working out for me. So I embraced change, and I worked hard at learning new things, new positions. I went to tight end, then I became an offensive lineman, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. So just being able to adapt, man, it's big. Not only on the field, but in life too, because life is unpredictable. You have a plan, right? You have a plan, but your plan does not always work out, man. So what are you going to do when adversity hits, challenges come, and you need to pivot? And so you gotta understand that when challenges come, just to take it head on. Always go back to your support system. And at that time it was my mom, my brother, my coaches, and just keep your head down and continue to work, and always put one foot in front of the other.
Coach, and then before Josh keeps on, I would like to stay there for a second. That's a switch, right? You made it. But I would assume there's a weight gain, there's a size in your body. Like, could you talk about that a little bit? Like, what was that like? Not only the transition, coach was a linebacker to going and playing SEC guard. Can you talk about like what went into that?
Well, so I graduated high school at 248, but once I got to Auburn, I mean, I was exposed to meals 3 times a day. I mean, I had snacks. So I gained weight once I got there. Not enough to be an offensive lineman, but I did put on some pounds. At that time, you know, they wanted me to play defensive end, so I needed to get a little bit bigger anyway. So I was lifting weights. I was on the weight gain program my whole time at Auburn, and so the weight came, but when I made the switch from tight end to offensive lineman, I was around 284 pounds.
Oh, wow.
As a blocking tight end. So I just needed, you know, they wanted me to get to 300. So I continued to stay on the weight gain program. Worked out hard. I love working out anyway, lifting heavy and just eating a lot, man. You know, so before I would leave the weight room, I had to finish a huge supersized protein shake every day, whey protein. And it was thick. It was hard to swallow, but it was something that I knew that it was going to help me get to my goal of 300. And yeah, I finally got there. And, you know, I played around between 300 and 310. But it wasn't easy though, because naturally I'm not a 300 pounder.
Right.
So it was a job. It was something that I had to take serious because my career was on the line.
Nice.
I'm a student of the game. I like to think of myself as a film junkie, and film study with the coach is actually one of the main things I'm looking forward to in the future. Would you say that there's an art to watching film? Definitely. One thing that I learned when I was in the NFL was, it was from Coach Cam Cameron. He said that when he would watch film, he would look at it first as like a movie. Wouldn't rewind, wouldn't do anything, just watch it. And then the second time around, he would start to dissect and pick it apart. And, you know, when you watch movies for like the second and third time, there's things that you see that you didn't see the first time. And so just doing that and just becoming just loving the process too, because watching film, it's kind of boring, man. I ain't gonna lie. So you gotta understand what the end result is and where it's gonna eventually get you. Because like you said, being a student of the game is gonna set you apart from all the other athletes out there, right? Because there's so many distractions, Josh, that that can easily take your mind away from the game. But if you're one of the guys who watch film, I mean, I think about Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Drew Brees, then you are putting yourself in a category with some of the greats, man. And it's going to show once you step on the football field. The game is just going to be slowed down, and you're going to be able to know what that guy in front of you is going to do before he even does it. So my hat's off to you, man.
Absolutely. Coach, before we get off Auburn and we start to transition the conversation, I'm a big football guy. Obviously, growing up in Louisiana, I'm an SEC guy. I remember watching you guys in 2004. Can we talk about that undefeated season? The BCS, and as most people know it now, was a bit different. Yeah. You guys get snubbed.
Right.
I think y'all ranked number three when it's all said and done. Could you talk about that season? Yeah. You played with, a massive amount of talent. Campbell, the running backs, Brown, Irons. Could you talk about that season going into being undefeated and then the snub and later going on to win, I think, the bowl game you guys won?
Yeah, so just that year, man, was a very special year. It was a year that really brought the team together. I mean, I came in as a freshman, and I knew that there was a culture there at Auburn that was one of hard work. There was great tradition already there before I got there, but to go through that 2004 season and accomplish the things that we accomplished, I think we made history. We were a part of history, and we will forever be spoken of.
Yes.
But some of the things that a lot of people don't know was what went on behind closed doors. You know, like before, our theme was hard fighting soldiers, and that came from our chaplain, Brother Chet. And, he played an integral part of our success at Auburn. But before the games, like on Friday nights, we would have our Bible studies, where we would, not necessarily Bible studies, but we would fellowship as brothers. And it was optional. You didn't have to come, but it was always packed, man, wall to wall. I mean, you had your Carnell Williams, Ronnie Brown, Jason Campbell, Carlos Rogers, like they would all lead that meeting. And it was a time where guys can come in and just vent. Like there was, death was happening in families, and we would talk about it and pray about it. And the person, so like if Josh had a issue going on, then you would, because you're sitting next to him, you would pray for him.
Wow.
And that's how it went the whole year, and it brought us closer as brothers. And we would lock arms before we walk out on the field, hard fighting fighting soldiers, and we would have our song, man. We are hard fighting soldiers on the battlefield. And everybody would sing it, man. And it was something that, looking back on it, man, like that's just you don't see that a lot, you know, because a lot of teams guys are out for themselves, man. But we really played for one another. And so to go, I mean, regular season went 12-0, and we had some impressive wins. But to not get that spot, you know, in the national title, that hurt us. It hurt us, man. And it just showed that, you know, that BCS system, it was flawed.
Yes,
you know,
big time.
And we knew we deserved a spot, you know, but Oklahoma and USC, they were 1-2 that whole year, and we just could never crack it. But we ended up playing in the Sugar Bowl
and beat them.
You know,
Y'all took it out on
Virginia Tech. We beat Virginia Tech, and you know that was a convincing win. And you know, to see the results of that USC and Oklahoma game, because it was a bloodbath.
Yes,
man, I knew we could have done better. You know, but it is what it is. You know, I think we represented the Auburn family well, and it's something that, you know, I talk about it to my son to this day.
Yeah, I think something else you said too, Coach, that I want to make sure I bring to the light, Josh, is that, and for you, again, I always tell you guys, like, this is an opportunity. I mean, to be sit and talk. I mean, listen to what Coach is talking about, to be that close to that knowledge, but the small stuff he's talking, the band of brothers, listening to music. Mm-hmm. Like nowadays, I think kids think we don't even want to lock on. We're too cool. Right. You know, it's just like, you know, but what that did for you guys and what that can do for your team. So put that in your toolbox. And as you become a leader, those things, I would tell you, from being in the Marines, from being close knit with people, the way you made it sound, Coach, sounded like us on a deployment. Like we played games, we stayed together, and everybody had everybody's back. So I just wanted to make sure I bring that up, Josh, and highlight that point.
Really dropping gems right now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Coach, you're part of a small percentage that heard their name called in the first round of the NFL draft, let alone caught it all. Can you talk about the draft experience and what it felt like being called onto the podium?
It was the longest day of my life, man. I wasn't in New York. I spent that time at my house in Eclectic, Alabama, man. And you'll think everybody in the town was over at my house. And we had food, man, and we were just sitting there watching TV, man. At first I was watching it. I was not sure if my name was going to get called, because I was one of the ones that I could possibly fall in the first round, but really I was looking for like second and third. Mm-hmm. You know, that's what my agent was telling me. But just knowing that there was a chance that my name could get called, you know, kind of enhanced my anticipation a little bit. So I was watching, man, and then, you know, just the picks kept falling, man, and I ended up going to my room and I just laid across the bed because, you know, everybody was there to see something, but nothing was happening.
Right.
And I just felt like I wasn't delivering. So I remember just coming out, man, taking a deep breath, coming out of my room, and the 29th pick was on. I got the call, and it was Ozzie Newsome. And he's an Alabama guy, but he said, man, you know, he enjoyed the way I played, so he was going to take a chance on an Auburn guy. And so it was, it was surreal for sure, man. I was thrilled. After I got picked, man, reporters came to my house and interviewed me. And, you know, just coming from a small town, I mean, I'm the first guy to ever make it that big. And, you know, just seeing the kids there and the excitement on everybody's faces, yes. You know, that meant a lot to me. I had, you know, family came in from all over, and it just was a great moment, man. And, you know, something that I never forget.
Coach, do they, just for everybody out there watching, like, how do you, like, you go lay down, but are you notified to keep your phone on you? Like, what do they tell you leading up to that? Like, hey, keep your phone close.
Yeah,
like,
keep your phone close, and I did, you know, but my house phone was ringing as well, and it was just people, man. It was the weirdest thing, like people. Man, I had one guy was like, "Hey, man, don't forget me when you make it big." No. I'm like, "I don't even know you." Like, right. It was crazy, man.
Wow.
But that's real talk for real, no lie.
Yeah.
That happened twice that day. But yeah, it was just something like my agent, you know, kind of prepped me for that moment.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm glad he did because it happened. It happened for me.
Awesome.
First round.
So we get drafted. Can we talk about? You mentioned the speed of the game. You were talking about going back. Mm-hmm. What's the jump like now from playing SEC ball to now you're on the field with NFL guys? What's that speed jump like from college to NFL?
Oh, it got even faster. You know, I didn't think it could, but it did. It got even faster. And I remember in my exit meeting with Cam Cameron, offense coordinator. My first year in the NFL, I was in his office, and he was like, "So, what was one of the things that really shocked you?" And I was like, "Just the consistency that I had to bring to every play, not every game, but every play. Because high school, there's a lot more room for error.
Right.
College, there was every now and then I would face a guy, but when I became like my senior year, when I was the guy, I was a number one guard in my senior year, and there wasn't a lot of people that could really get on my level.
Right.
And I earned that too. Like I worked really hard. Maybe like Glenn Dorsey, I faced him from LSU, and I knew I had to bring my A game. But there was times where, man, honestly, I didn't have to play my best to be the best. In the NFL, that ain't. I don't care who you're playing. You can be the worst team in the NFL, but they're going to have a guy across from you that's trying to feed his family. And so I had to come with my A game every game, man. And it was exhausting, really. Like if I prepared the way, like student of the game, studied film, and I made sure I was physically ready to play. So mentally, emotionally, physically. And after the game, man, like everybody's hanging out. I'm like, no, I'm gonna go home.
You're going, yeah.
Because I was exhausted. And so that was just one of the things that I think, the speed was much faster, but just the consistency I had to bring to every play was something I really had to get used to.
Wow, because that's impactful. Even for me, I've watched the game, played it, not at the level you have, but watched it. But to hear you say, like, there ain't no, and we hear the statement, right, Josh? Don't take a play off. But
right.
to like you said, I'm done after this is over. Any rookie moments, Coach? You at Baltimore now, and you're there at a great time. I mean, Ray Lewis, Edward, can you talk about any rookie moments or any cool things that happened during your time as a rookie?
Well, when I got there, I played left guard at Auburn, but when I got to Baltimore, in order for me to play left guard in Baltimore, I would have to play next to Jonathan Ogden.
Yes.
He was a 12-year Pro Bowler, 12-time Pro Bowler. And so because I was a rookie, he was like, nope, you ain't playing next to me. And so I had to move, man. Yeah, I had to move to right guard. And it was the weirdest thing because I never got in there. Like, it's crazy, but I never worked the right-handed stance. And I was left-handed too, so naturally just being on the left side felt good. But it's something I tell guys. I mean, one, if you want to be the shot caller, you got to earn it, because Jonathan J.O. earned that.
Right.
And that was his last year, so I guess he didn't want to get used to another guy. So I had to play right guard. Another thing, another moment that I remember is just the rookie dinner. Rookies got to take the vets out, man. And out of all positions, I got the O-line.
The biggest eaters.
Yeah, the biggest eaters, right? So we went to a steakhouse, man, and these guys are ordering drinks that are very expensive, man. And luckily I was one. There was three of us. So I was a first rounder, there was a third rounder, and then there was a sixth rounder. So, we split the bill, but because I had the biggest signing bonus, I paid the most. And man, I can't remember, but it was obviously over $10,000. I mean,
wow.
it was up there. It was up there, man. But I was thankful that I had partners to split it because other positions didn't, and they didn't go light on those guys either, man. Sad, actually, really think about it, because that money is gone. But that was one of the moments that I heard about before I got there, and I was praying that it wasn't true, but it was all true.
All true.
Very true. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your time in Baltimore, you guys, and I want to verify this with you. I don't know if you were there. You AFC Championship against Pittsburgh. I think you're a rookie at the time.
No, that was my second year.
Second year. What was that like? I mean, and you're going against some of the greats on that Pittsburgh team. You're in the AFC Championship. How was that game and that experience?
Oh man, it was intense. I mean, while I was in Baltimore, I played in two AFC championships with Pittsburgh and against Pittsburgh and the Patriots, and two teams that have that have the tradition of winning.
Yes,
winning Super Bowls too, and so it was a very exciting time. It was a high stakes game because every play mattered, man. And you win or lose and go home. So we knew that it was going to be a big game going in because we played both of those teams during the season, regular season anyway, and it didn't disappoint. I mean, it was both of those games were games that came down to the wire. More so with that Patriots game. I mean, it was a field goal that we missed that could have tied the game, I think, and sent us into overtime. So it was 2 games that my fingers were crossed, man, because we were 1 game away from the Super Bowl, but we didn't get the job done. And, after I left Baltimore the next year, so we played the Patriots my last year, 2012 or 11, I believe, and then I hit free agency and went to New Orleans, but that's the year that the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl.
Yes.
So, so they were primed to win
in New Orleans, too, if I'm not mistaken.
In New Orleans, yep. And they got through. They had to face the Patriots again in the AFC Championship to win.
Wow. My last one, if I pass it back to Josh, Coach, I just want to throw a couple of names at you. And first thing to come to mind, or anything you can tell us, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, John Harbaugh, your O-line coach, John Maskell. What are those? When you hear those names, what comes to mind?
Oh, man. So, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, intense. Ray Lewis, obviously, more so than Ed. Just talking to Ray Lewis, you'll be ready to run through a wall. So
it is true. This isn't just what we see.
It is true. No, it's not for camera. It's not for show when he's talking. Like, that's just him. Ed Reed he's more laid back, but man, he's game time ready. He could miss the whole week of practice and step on the field and ball out.
Wow.
Yeah, and Harbaugh was just someone who was, he stayed the course. His first year in Baltimore was a tough one for him because he had guys that were already set. They were veterans, and they didn't like this guy coming in changing things. I mean, Baltimore was known for, it was called a cupcake training camp.
Right.
Where, training camp was kind of like light, but that's supposed to be one of the hardest times of your season. But Harbaugh brought that back. Like training camp, worst training camps ever. And a lot of the older guys didn't like that. But he stayed the course, and we won a lot of games, and they're still winning. So he changed the culture there. And then Coach Maskell, man, he's one of my best and worst coaches. Wow. He was not a people's person, I tell you that, man. A lot of people, he didn't know how to talk to people, man. I tell you that.
Especially grown men, right?
Grown men, yeah. I'm like, Coach, you can't talk to me like that, brother. But he was one of the best coaches in the sense that, he believed in me, he pushed me, and he coached me hard. And that was something that I was used to. I had a coach that coached me hard when I was in Auburn. So I was fine with the hard coaching, didn't bother me. But he really helped me take my game to another level because he saw some things in me that I didn't see. Now, just to rewind, I just learned offensive line at Auburn, my third year. So a lot of guys that were playing in the league, they played O-line all their life, But I had to learn the position, and I was still learning when I got in the NFL. So he definitely accelerated my learning.
Coming fast, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach, now you're with the Saints. I'm sitting by one of the biggest Saints fans I know. It's probably his favorite part of the
Absolutely,
game.
it is.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how trades work in the NFL?
How what?
Trades work in the NFL.
Well, I didn't get traded. I didn't get traded to New Orleans. I hit free agency.
Yep.
Yeah. So my contract was up in Baltimore, and I could have had the option to stay because Baltimore offered me a deal, but I wanted to see what else was out there, So New Orleans offered the best deal, and so I took it. And at that time, I was single, so it wasn't a huge adjustment because it was just me moving, and so I made the move, and I was there for 3 years, and it was 3 great years. I love New Orleans, man. Unbelievable place to be. Love the people down there. My youngest son was born in New Orleans, so he got a taste of it. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Awesome.
How was blocking for Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks of all time? Could you talk about his work ethic a little bit?
Yeah, Drew is another guy who was just always ready, man. And you would think if you didn't know what he put in, the work that he put in, you'd think he just stepped on the football field and performed. But he was always prepping, man. It was crazy. We would always joke because when we would be at practice and we would just come off the field from doing our plays, we will be resting, the defense will be up, and we'll be talking to Drew, and it's just like you can tell like his mind was somewhere else. Like he was thinking about football. And sure enough, as soon as that conversation was over, Drew was gone, and he was working on some plays. And he was throwing, or he was working by himself now. Nobody else over there working with him. He was just going through his steps and reads visually. And, it was just something that obviously, if you want to be a great, you got to pattern and model your game after the great ones. And that was something that I did for the offensive line. But being around guys like Ed Reed and Drew Brees and Ray Lewis, man, Jonathan Ogden, I took advantage of asking questions too. So the mental game was something that I learned from Drew. He had a psychologist.
Wow.
And that was something that was, kind of taboo, especially back then, where guys didn't really want to talk about it. But you really think about it, man. We're playing a game, especially at the quarterback position. You can win and lose games. So, that's what fans think, that you can win and lose games, and it's all on your shoulders. So he wanted to make sure that he was prepared mentally. And that was something that I took from his playbook, to make sure my mind is right. Because when you make a mistake, there's going to be a lot of noise, right? And on the offensive line, everybody knows when we make mistakes. Defensive guys, they can make mistakes, and we may not know it. But if we give up a sack, Josh, people are going to know it. And so that's going to weigh heavy on you because you want to be great, and it's not going to always be there's going to be moments where people are going to make you feel like you're not worthy enough, man. So the game of football and the sports in general can do that to you. It can make or break you. So make sure your mental is right for sure.
Absolutely.
Speaking about the O-line, I would like to have a little bit of trench talk.
Okay.
In my first couple years of football, I quickly learned how important the relationship between a guard and tackle is. Dealing with blitz pickup, combo blocks, double teams, etc. What would you say is the key to building a good relationship and communication on the O-line? Hanging
out, man. Something we did as an O-line. We would go out and have O-line dinners and bring your quarterback with you because he's part of the team too. So it's a team within a team. You got the 5 guys that you go to battle with, and you got to be on one accord. And you got to practice, and you got to develop that camaraderie between you and your fellow guys, man. And there's times, man, when I was playing and I would see a blitz, and all I gotta say is, hey. It's not even words that people could understand on the outside, but my guy knew because we practiced it over and over and over again. So I would definitely say hang out, get to know them, man, ask questions, because the people you're going to play with, man, there's an opportunity for lifelong relationships that you can develop. And, but you got to be intentional. It's not just going to happen. So you got to be intentional, get to know them, talk about ask questions about their families, go out to eat, and just have fun.
I heard you said something about dinner and food. I heard New Orleans has some great food.
We do, Josh. Undisputed. But go ahead.
What do you remember about the food in New Orleans?
You can throw a rock, man, and hit a good restaurant. I mean, it was so many places down there that we went and experienced. Drago's, the restaurant. I don't know if you've ever been in there,
Absolutely.
but the oysters. So they would come out to the facility on Wednesdays and cook us oysters when I was in New Orleans. So that was one of the memories that I have. Just going down there in the French Quarter, man, and just picking a spot with me and my wife, man. Just a date night, hanging out down there. It was great food. GW Fins,
yes.
You heard of that. The beignets, they got everything from seafood to sweets, man. And I'm a big seafood guy, so I enjoyed eating the alligator and the catfish. That's another thing, man, that I never experienced until I got to New Orleans is driving and seeing an alligator just cross the street.
Yeah.
Right? That was crazy, man. But that was the norm down there in New Orleans.
Before I hand this back off to Coach Darius, you said early in your career you had a transition from left guard to right guard. How important is it to know all 5 positions on the O-line?
I think if you're not a starter, it's a must to know all the positions. If you're fortunate to start, then depending on what level you're playing on, I guess would determine the importance of knowing all positions. But right now, as I'm training all of my offensive linemen, we work both stances, left and right. And if you're a guard, then I definitely recommend learning center because, so you can play all 3 positions. And, I think, I did move to right guard, but I ended up moving back to left guard. I left that part out. I ended up moving back to left guard thanks to Cam Cameron because he was like, yeah, man, we don't want to take you away from your natural spot. So I ended up moving back to left guard. But even then, I was a backup center. And so I was snapping during practice with Joe Flacco just in case some of the centers got hurt. So I think it's important, man. Everybody should know multiple positions.
Awesome. Coach, in your intro, we talked about your philanthropy work. Can we talk about your foundation, the Ben Grubbs, and I don't, your wife sees it, Shania.
Yeah, Shania.
Grubbs Foundation, and how you guys assisting the son of a saint down in New Orleans. Can you talk about the foundation?
Yeah, so the foundation, so I started once I got into the league, and my main focus was single-family homes. Growing up in a single-family home, like I said, my dad passed when I was 5. So I knew that I wanted to be of assistance to, men and women that needed that help. And when I got to New Orleans, the Son of a Saint was one of the organizations that came around a lot, and I heard the name a lot, and I saw that they were doing great things, and it was just right up my alley because they support sons, fatherless kids, boys, whether it's by death or imprisonment. So Sonny is is the guy that's over it. His dad was actually a saint, so Son of a Saint. That's where the name came from. And so, so once I met him, and I love what they were doing, so I started supporting financially and spending time down there, and still to this day, I give my time and money to them, and they have done a great job down there. They built a facility a couple years back, and in that facility, man, they're teaching coding, they're teaching culinary work. I mean, it's unbelievable what they got going on down there. I'm very fortunate to have an organization, a nonprofit like them that I can team with and make an impact.
I think, Coach, if I could, we could take a second here. As you talk about that and the impact and the role Son of a Saint is playing, I think for all 3 of us in some form, I had my fathers in my life, there but not there, and no, I don't take it as a knock on him. I always tell people he did what he was, the best tools he did what he could with them, right? But I think for all 3 of us sharing that space of kind of being fathers, I know for me, I know for you, I've been around you. I see Nick, people can't see at home, but Nick is sitting right there. Could you talk about how important it is to be a father and that is to you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, not having my dad around, but being blessed to have guys to stand in that position. I lacked, but I wasn't lacking because I always gravitated towards my coaches and like my chaplains on the teams. But just that shows you just how important having a man around is, because I knew I needed something like that. And I knew, although my mom did a great job,
absolutely,
but she could never be my dad. And so I'm just fortunate enough to be around and still be able to be that support system for my sons and my daughters. When something goes wrong, man, they look, they love their mom, but man, they need that stability in their life. And just me being around, just hugging them, telling them that I love them, whether it's tough love or whether it's helping them with homework, just having that male in their life. And they see it too. They know they have friends that don't have fathers at home, so they know they know the importance of it, and I'm just glad that I can be that person for them. I don't take it for granted. I understand that being a dad brings with it a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
Not only that, just being a black man and understanding that there's a lot of African American kids that don't have fathers. And so whether I'm being a dad to my children or standing in the gap for the kids that I train, I understand the importance of it.
Easy enough. Salute, Coach. I'll shoot about you, Josh.
In addition to an amazing career, you also managed to win a lot in life. You are a husband and father to 4. What best practices do you have for young athletes who are starting today?
Best starting their football or sports career in general?
Dating. I think Josh wants
You say
Josh is
dating?
getting
Yes,
into
sir.
dating. Yeah,
Oh,
he wants some
dating.
dating advice,
Oh,
Coach. He wants you to be
dating.
date doctor.
Man. Wow, that's a great question, Josh. Pick the right one. I know that. I would say, man, as a young man, I made a lot of mistakes when it came to dating. Like I didn't have the father to tell me, hey, son, this is what you need to do. So when I did start dating, I kind of learned by watching my friends, and that wasn't the best thing to do. So what I'm teaching now, my kids now, is one, always respect, your girlfriend, your partner. Bring something to the table, right? Always bring something to the table. Be that security that the girl may be looking for. Be that security, and always respect her, like I said. And there's going to be times you may meet people that may not respect themselves, man. But you got to make sure that you let them know that, hey, they are valuable, they are worthy, and they should see themselves as that and as such. So that would be the advice that I give you, man. I would say just have fun right now, be safe, and enjoy life, because there's a lot of time for the dating thing. I will say this: my decisions when it came to dating were kind of wrapped in or were affected by me wanting to be great in football. So I knew that I didn't have a lot of time to be hanging out. So my dating life kind of suffered because of that. No, I wouldn't say suffered, but it was impacted. My priority was sports. And like I said, I didn't hang out, I didn't party a lot, because I knew that I needed to wake up the next day, go to work. I knew I needed
priorities.
Yeah, I knew my priorities, man. So I would always say, keep your priorities, keep the main thing, and all that stuff will take care of itself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Coach, you're on the move again to Kansas City. Can you talk about the experience in Kansas City and being coached by Andy Reid?
Well, that was a short experience for me, man. I ended up, I was there. I went through training camp, and I made it through half the season before I got injured. But one thing that I can say about that organization was that, with Andy running it, Andy was straight to the point. He would walk into the meeting room with his notes, and he would go off. He would read each note, and then we were out. And that was it was a time that, even although it was short-lived, I appreciated the experience that I got from Kansas City. Just being up there, that I was still around some great players. Pat Mahomes wasn't there at that time. I was blocking for Alex Smith, who was a really good quarterback. But we started out, my first 6 games, I think we only won like 2 of those, and I lost our last 3. And right before I got injured, we ended up beating Pittsburgh, and that was the game that set the path for. I think they ended up winning the rest of the games that season, make it to the playoffs. But like I said, I got injured. It was quite the experience for me, because I was no longer in the facility anymore. I was able to go home and spend time with my family because I wasn't playing. And I never stepped back on the football field. And so I didn't know, like I said, life is unpredictable and you got to adapt. And so at that time, I didn't know that would be my last game. I was at home enjoying my family, but never stepped back on the football field. And I had to retire after that.
Wow. Coach, you answered my next one, John, so we can move on to yours. So, Coach, you're retired now. You have an amazing career, and you're choosing to give your most precious resource back, time. Can you talk about game time performance? You're coaching at the high school, volunteering. Can you talk about what that meant to you and what you're doing with game time and what it's about for anybody that don't know?
Yeah, absolutely. So game time performance is a training business that I started in 2020. And it was 5 years into retirement after I experienced a lot of things. I ended up learning to play the piano. I enrolled in Berklee School of Music. I took classes online at Liberty. Went to seminary.
Wow.
Started my master's in exercise science, man. So I was all over the place. But then I finally came back to football. I started to get that itch. And so I started my business, and started training, man. And it took off. Since then, I haven't looked back. I started coaching. So between coaching and training is, my time is very busy. I love giving back. I love giving back in the form of coaching and training. Being out on the turf, that's, I'm in my element at that. That's a space that I kind of thrive in and I feel comfortable in. And I enjoy coaching guys like yourself, man, guys that come to work, never complain, looking for some nuggets that they can use to help them become the best players that they can be. And that's something that I just thrive on, man.
Sounds like a plan. Coach, I got two more. I think me and Josh Quest got crossed up here, but I'll ask this one for you. One of the pillars of this show is, like I talked about with Josh in training, is the platform to not only highlight kids, highlight people who develop, who play a major part in their development, but talk about public speaking. I've talked to my friend Brandon and some other people. What was your experience with public speaking when you were young and coming through the ranks? Did you receive training on it? I know, you've talked about how important it was, and did you have any struggles with when that camera came on, when the mic got in front of you? And what do you think about what we're doing here?
Well, I didn't like speaking, I'll tell you that. and speaking, I was telling my son this story, but I had a speech impediment growing up. I think I told you.
Yep.
And it was a struggle of mine to talk publicly. I was in speech therapy class until like 6th grade, man, and I was picked on because I stuttered. And so I had to overcome that and get comfortable, around talking. When I got to Auburn, I remember the time that I was at Auburn, and one of the strength coaches, was he pulled me to the side and he said, Grubbs, you are considered a leader on the team and you do a great job leading by example, but we need you to talk. At that time, Jason Campbell, Carnell, all those guys, they had left. They were the mouthpiece.
Right. So you were able to
so he was trying to move me into that position, and it was something that I wasn't comfortable with. But man, I really credit him because he got me talking, and I would break down the team at the end. I would, if something wasn't going on, I would say, hey guys, we need to get together. We need to talk about it. And I would be one of the spokespersons for the team. And that was a great experience for me because it showed me that, yes, you can lead by example, but there's going to be times where you need to open your mouth.
Right.
And especially if you got something to say. And if you are that leader and you're leading by example, God's going to listen to you. And, that was something that kind of helped me throughout my football career, because it happened the same way when I got to NFL. I didn't have to be that spokesperson immediately, but as guys in the offensive line I'm speaking of, as the older guys started to retire and I was one of the leaders of the offensive line,
right,
I would be one of the guys to talk and try to rally the troops, man. So I think public speaking, my hat's off to you. Josh, you stepping up and being that spokesperson, man, my hat's off to y'all because it's a skill. It's a skill that can be learned and you can always improve on it. And the better you are, the more spaces you can find yourself in. And so it's something that I'm still working at. I still get nervous. My inclination is to say no when someone asks me to do something or speak, but I speak and I try to say yes more than no because I know that I struggle at it, and I know that as I'm pushing through that I'm going to improve, and I know some doors will open up because of it.
Absolutely, Coach. I appreciate that moment just to talk about that and the vulnerability, and because like me, you've always talked about, we all have them. Like I said, I've told people, I've been very candid. I speak fast naturally. I notice when I'm speaking, people are looking at my mouth. So I have to slow down, enunciate, because I know that's my weakness. But like you said, I was thrust into that moment of public speaking. In the Marines, you don't get no option. Hey, you go do that or you don't, or you evaluate on it. So I appreciate you taking that moment. You want to bring us home, Josh?
Yes, sir. Coach, before we wrap this up, can you give the viewers any parting advice that you wish you had as a young athlete with dreams?
Any advice? Yeah, I think I said this earlier, but to embrace challenges and be okay with adapting to different circumstances. I'll say it again. Life is unpredictable, so things are going to happen, man, and you're not going to be ready for it. But you got to be open. You got to be open to change and have a growth mindset, because really, man, struggles, that's where you grow.
Yes.
So all the struggles I didn't hit on many of my struggles, man. But when I look back on my life, especially in football, the struggles I had really made me and shaped me into the man that I am today. And it was some of those moments that I went through that prepared me, made me stronger, put calluses on my hands, and I was able to endure a lot of things that came on later because of those struggles. So, that's what I would recommend. Be okay with struggles, challenges, man. It's just a stepping stone to success. So it'll be all right.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes,
Anything
sir.
else, Josh?
No, sir. Coach, I really appreciate you coming out today. Make sure y'all click that notification bell, subscribe, like, and follow Sports Told by Youth, and share for more tips for tips on public speaking, exclusive interviews, and more. Make sure to follow Coach Grubbs at BENN66 Grubbs. Peace. We out.
We out, guys. Thank y'all again, Coach. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
Great
thanks
set,
for having
all
me,
the
man.
advice, and
Yes, sir.
like, follow, subscribe, like Josh said. How did it feel, Josh?
Felt good.
Feel good? Second time around?
Yes, sir.
All right, we getting better at it. All right, good job. Appreciate you, Coach. We out. Peace.